Hey guys, what's up? It is Matthew, and you are watching the Trans Brothers and Sisters Club. So, the topic for this week is coming out with our sexuality. So, I am going to come out to you guys. I am terribly, terribly straight. If you're not aware, me being a man, straight means that I like women, regardless of what biological genitalia I may have. And, I think it's actually really important to discuss the assumption that all trans people have to come out, because honestly, as a straight man, I don't think that I can speak on coming out as an LGB person because I'm not one, and I come from a place of privilege where I don't have to explain my sexuality to people. I don't have to, deal with people giving me looks for holding hands with a woman on the street. I look like a man, and the people that I date look like women. And so that's really not something that I have to worry about, and that really is a privilege. Um, there's definitely this assumption that trans people are queer as far as sexuality goes, and I think that that problem is perpetuated with the phrase LGBT. There's a big academic debate about whether the T belongs with LGBT, and there's kinds of two sides to it, and I'd like to explore both of those with you, and then explain a little bit about why I have the position in that debate that I do. I personally think that the T absolutely does not belong with LGB. I think it's a completely separate issue, and I use my own experience to address that idea. So, the word homosexual itself can be a little bit controversial. A lot of people feel that it has negative connotations from the past, less so in the present day as society has learned to accept that kind of love a little bit more. But in the past, homosexual was used as a very negative term, and so a lot of people really don't like that word anymore. Same-sex relationships tends to be a little bit more politically correct nowadays. But for the sake of linguistics, I'd like to look at the word homosexual. As you probably know, being homosexual means being gay, and the prefix for the word homo comes from a Greek root that means same, and sexual means, who you're sexually attracted to, or who you engage in sexual acts with. So the word homosexual means somebody who engages in sexual acts with somebody of the same sex. Um, Also, going off that, bisexual would be somebody who's sexually attracted to or has sex with people of two sexes, therefore, probably referring to people on a binary, because it is bisexual. Some people don't really apply that to male female on the gender binary. The word pansexual is also used often for people who don't like that binary. But really, these words are used in the way that the person who's using them feels that they're proper to use. Two people could identify as bisexual and have very different meanings for the word, and I think that's okay as long as it's clarified. But linguistically, this brings up a really big problem for the word transsexual. Trans comes from the Greek root that means across, and once again, sexual, we talked about before. So the word transsexual would actually indicate that transsexual people are sexually attracted to transgendered people. And our modern understanding of this word is very different. A transsexual person is someone who is transitioning their biological sex. So the word indicates that T should be included in the LGB queer spectrum, but the way that we understand it now really doesn't put it in the same category. Um, LGB really is referring to people's sexual orientation, and transgender people, gender really doesn't have to do with, who you like. I like the same people depending on whether I have a penis or a vagina or something in between. Um, and so, personally, I really see them as separate issues. I think that the T does not belong with LGB because it's not a sexual orientation. It's just not. It just doesn't fit. Um, there are arguments that T should be included because the LGB community has a whole lot more support, a whole lot more manpower, and much more defined resources as far as pushing issues and rights and making changes in the community. But the fact of the matter is that as long as T is included in the LGB spectrum, the transgender issues will constantly be overshadowed by the LGB issues, and it makes it so that we basically become the invisible T. I think a really good example of the way that transgender issues are overshadowed by LGB issues in the LGBT community is that of same-sex marriage. Um, Gay marriage really is the head issue, I believe, for the LGBT community right now. I think it's absolutely a right. I think it should be legal. Obviously, it's legal in other places, and separation of church and state would indicate that it should be legal, but that's not really how it is right now. However, gay marriage does not affect me as a straight man. As a straight man, once my gender is changed legally, I will legally be able to marry the people that I'm in love with, which are, registered women. And that is a privilege I recognize, and I think that it's important to focus on legalizing gay marriage, but at the same time, I do not want to attach, myself to that fight because it doesn't apply to me. And I don't think it's fair for me to be grouped into that category of queer people when I'm really not queer as far as, my sexual attraction. And so all of the LGBT resources are now going towards legalizing gay marriage, when in fact the only transgender people that would actually affect are those who also identify as somewhere on the LGBT queer spectrum. And I think that it's, absolutely fine for people to belong to the trans community and also belong to the queer community, but it's just not fair for me to be lumped into that queer community when I don't identify that way. And it's not fair for my resources to go to a battle that's not my battle. And, I'm not saying that battle shouldn't be fought. I'm not saying I don't support it. I'm just saying that I don't belong to that group. And the terminology really lumps trans people in with that. And I think the fact that how you came out as your sexual orientation as the topic for the Trans Brothers and Sisters Collab channel really does highlight that assumption that trans people are queer. And I know I'm not the only person on this channel that identifies as straight. And so this is actually something that we need to talk about and we need to discuss. How does the trans community differentiate itself, define itself properly for, the general public that doesn't necessarily understand what it means to be trans, yet still support the queer community and receive that reciprocal support that we have? Because I really don't think that we would have as many rights in this country if we were not backed by the LGBT community. So this presents a real discussion that, the LGBT needs to have with itself. We need to figure out, how to differentiate. That's about my 2 cents on this topic. Might not be the most popular opinion, but I think it's important to talk about. I do not mean any offense by anything I say in this video. I'm merely stating it for an academic dialogue purpose. I think that, discourse and dialogue and rhetoric really is the answer to solving our current problems. The language of queer theory right now is very vague. It's very mixed up. It makes it so that we actually can't talk about the things we need to talk about. So there you have it. That's my 2 cents. Please let me know what you think. Sure, some people agree and other people disagree with me, so I'd love to hear about it. Comments below. Take it easy. Have a good week. I'll see you next week.